Good morning. This is Dan Ricci with Apigee, Product Marketing, and I am pleased to have with us today from Gogo, Brad Jaehn, VP of Products. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining today's webcast. We're very excited to have an opportunity to talk about the Gogo API and Apigee relationship.
Excellent. Yeah, and a really great story, so I'm really anxious to get into this. But before we do, just want to let you know, if you have some technical difficulties, there's a phone number in the chat panel. Also, there's a Q&A tab that you can ask questions, and at the end, we'll basically answer some questions for you. So with that, let's begin with a couple of notes here. Hopefully you've heard by now, and if not, certainly now is the time to really think about this. We have our annual conference coming up, I Love APIs, and you can use the code that you see in the orange bar at the top here for 10% off. So go there and sign up for that while we're basically working through this, and I think that you'll join us for this conference. Lots of great sessions, lots of great people. You were at the show last year. What did you think?
I think it was an outstanding event last year. Just the group of digital leaders you're able to bring together in one place for a couple of days is really remarkable. I know our team came back really motivated and excited about who we met, what we learned, and really excited to be part of it again this year in San Francisco.
And of course that Fort Mason location was pretty interesting too.
It's fun. It's definitely fun.
Right on the water, beautiful place to be doing your work, as they say. A couple of other notes here. I want you to be sure, certainly you can follow up and see this webcast from our website. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube channel and SlideShare for the notes and the slides from this particular webcast. So, with that, let's talk a little bit about Gogo. Gogo, I think, is a recognizable name. I certainly have used it many times myself. But Brad, why don't you tell us a little bit about Gogo's business model?
Sure. So, Gogo is the leading aviation communications service provider. So today we have about 2,300 commercial aircraft in the U.S. and around the world leveraging our internet capabilities, and over 6,000 private aviation aircraft through our AirCell subsidiary. So really at the end of the day, Gogo provides technologies, hardware, and capabilities that enable the connected aircraft. And we're very excited about what we've done so far and where we're going. And looking at Gogo, I've been with the company now for about 2.5 years, and we're growing extremely quickly. We've hired an amazing amount of people, and we continue to really look at new technologies and new ways to provide value to, especially to our airline partners and ultimately to their passengers. And we've looked at ways to leverage our relationship with Apigee and other companies to continue to facilitate creating value for our airline partners. And over the last couple of years, the evolution's been really remarkable as we've brought new technologies and new services to the aviation market that frankly are unmatched. And I'm really excited about that.
That sounds really enabling in terms of what you did to enable both the airlines and the end customers, your users. And I see basically that you've got certainly a pretty good market share or mind share with the airlines.
Yeah, so absolutely. So, today we have 10 plus partners here in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and around the world. Most recently, earlier this week, we launched our relationship with Japan Airlines. So we have about 77 aircraft that are going to be flying around providing internet connectivity within Japan, and it's a really amazing achievement to see that 2 years ago we were a U.S.-based company. Now we are a truly global aviation communication provider, and the Gogo business really continues to evolve. And I think that's something I want to touch on today's discussion. Is we started with a dialogue directly to a passenger and providing over 55 million internet sessions to passengers over the last 6+ years. And as the business continues to grow and evolve, our customers aren't just the passengers on the aircraft. They're now the crews that both provide service to the passengers as well as ultimately the guys that are up front, making sure they're providing a safe flying experience, and ultimately to the aircraft itself. And a strong API and breaking down the walled garden strategy is extremely important to that. We've also started to expand our ecosystem into some new third parties through our API platform. One of the ones that I'm most excited about is an initiative called Here on Biz, and this is a mashup of LinkedIn, Gogo's connectivity, and Virgin America. So Virgin is a really remarkable company that does a lot of neat, progressive things, and we work together very collaboratively to provide a service that allows you on a flight from, let's say, San Jose to a conference in New York City to see who's on the plane, where do they work, maybe make some business connections, all in real time on that aircraft, leveraging our connectivity solutions, the Apigee APIs, and that's been really neat to see. We've also started leveraging this technology internally. It's the eat our own dog food model. and that's a place where we're just getting started, but I'm really excited to see where that's going.
Great. So you're really talking about being the connected airline, right?
Absolutely. Our value proposition and mission statement is Gogo enables the connected aircraft. That is, it's people, it's hardware, it's airframe, it's crews, and that's where we're investing time, energy, and a lot of money to provide the most outstanding connectivity and communications platform in the sky around the world, in the universe, ultimately.
That's interesting, because I think most people, certainly myself, think of Gogos providing that access to the internet, but it's really the combination of everything digital, it sounds like, social, as well as the online access and everything else, including the plane itself.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's outstanding. All right, so let's talk a little bit about when you started to look at Apigee and started to look at those challenges, and what did you face?
Sure.
What was your scenario?
I think what led us down the Apigee path, and frankly the API platform path, was really, I think, four things. Time to market. We could go do these things ourselves, and we had done a lot of work to develop our own APIs and such, and we're good at it. We absolutely can do it, but scale becomes a question. And how do we grow from one partner to 2 partners to 12 partners to 100 partners? And quality, always an issue. So how do we provide consistent, scalable experiences in a rapid time to market? And it's about, in our mindset, breaking down the walled gardens. And our ecosystem is not just the passenger; it's the airline and their upstream partners. And technologies like this have really helped us enable that passenger engagement.
I want to just focus in on one of those points. So it sounds like you did a pretty thorough analysis in terms of build versus buy, and we certainly see that a lot in the industry. But what really led you to sort of change that sort of model and go to the buy side of the equation?
Sure, and just to be clear, we still have a lot of internally built technology.
Yes, of course.
And, as we continue to evolve into new opportunities, it's how do we scale quickly and cost effectively, and that was a big part of our build versus buy decision. I think the realization that we had, which probably many of your other new and existing customers have, is APIs aren't just about interfaces. It's not just the request response model, but it's the things like monitoring and reporting and authentication and documentation and version management that are all, those are the non-sexy parts of an API product. And by leveraging this partnership, we've been able to bring together that entire ecosystem around a new line of business. Fundamentally, it's about the request and the response, but it's the underlying, or the overall technology on top of that that enables this business to scale.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Certainly, I think we've seen that a bit too. So, given those challenges and how you sort of got into this, what was it like basically as you made the decision and took off from there?
So we started with a very simple, almost skunkworks type project. So we had some of our product leadership and our technology leadership getting aligned around what does this opportunity look like, and went to our senior management team and received basically a small allocation of funding to try something. And as a result of that Try Something initiative, we developed a number of partnerships with external app developers and other companies. We spent some time and money internally to take our existing services and enable them to work with the Apigee platform, and we went to market. It almost happened in a way that no one knew it happened, which was kind of encouraging. And from that initial inception, which was fall of 2013 to spring of 2014, we brought to market a full set of it's a new line of business for us, and to launch a new line of business in a somewhat established company in 6 months, it's pretty remarkable. And not to say it wasn't fraught with challenge and pitfalls, but as a whole, what came out at the end of that initial investment was very positive. And what we're now seeing is through press and other media product marketing initiatives that the level of interest and engagement from not just little partners, but big multi-billion-dollar companies to leverage this platform is really amazing, and we're unbelievably excited about that.
Right. And now you're into this in less than a year, rather than perhaps a lot longer than it might have taken.
I think internally we talk about it absolutely can do this, and you start to talk about horizons of 6 months versus 2 years, and it really comes down to your internal business case of what's the opportunity cost of those incremental 18 months.
Right.
Are our internal investments best paid off against authentication and reporting, or do we invest that same intellectual capital in our core business, which is aviation communications technology? And I think 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. Let's make the investment in our core IP and work with the best strategic partners we can find to become additive to that.
Core versus context.
Exactly.
Right. And what about, other than the technical challenges, certainly, what about organizational challenges?
Sure. I think that's probably the place where I want to talk for a few moments is APIs at the end of the day are technology. And one of the evolutions that Gogo has faced is it does start to introduce technology as a product.
Sure.
And within our organization, we've had discussions about, is an API a product? And as such, should you have the level of support from a marketing, promotion, pricing, investment, or is it just a technology? And where we're ultimately ending up is this is a core part of our product offering. It's akin to satellite technology to an airline as a part of our catalog. Our APIs as part of our overall catalog is becoming as important. And that's caused the organization to start to look at itself a bit differently, where the IT business divide starts to break down and it more becomes, let's talk about the right definition and positioning of a new product in the market. And as such, it requires a massive amount of collaboration and dialogue from people whose business cards might say product or architecture or technology or engineering. Those silos start to lose some meaning as we introduce technical products into the marketplace. It's no longer, well, the crazy marketing guy wants something, or the IT guy says do this. It's the team as a whole comes together to bring this to market.
Right.
And it can be a challenge at times.
Yeah, no, I can certainly see that, and I think we've had a number of customer examples where we certainly see it. And it really is that combination of both the business and technology. And often there's vision on both sides, but it's when they unite and they're behind accomplishing business goals that this thing really takes off.
Exactly. No, that's one of the things that I'm really excited to see is the folks on our product team who are heading up this initiative having a very key strategic partnership with our architecture organization and our technology leadership. And it's not about silos, it's about outcomes. And I think we're doing a lot culturally and organizationally to continue to break down that handoff model to more of a partnership model. And it will always be a challenge, but I think we've made a ton of really positive progress.
So you started out basically with the knowledge of what APIs would bring, but it sounds like along the way you're achieving a digital transformation, and that involves a lot more than just the technology.
Yes, and that digital transformation. I go back to the example of the walled garden. We look at AOL from the late 90s. We look at cable providers or telecommunications companies, and as ecosystems become open, transformation starts to occur. And I think Gogo it's a microcosm of that happening as well. We have a fairly closed ecosystem, and through our investment in these enabling technologies, we're starting to provide capabilities to our partners to do things that, frankly, neither us nor them could ever have imagined. And that's really exciting to see. And exciting's nice, but the revenue and monetization opportunities that then creates for all parties, it grows the ecosystem. And that gets to some of the dialogue that we have internally about, well, how do I monetize an API? And I think our perspective on that is you may not directly monetize that API, but what that API and that services infrastructure does is it enables our partners to create new monetization opportunities, therefore benefiting the entire ecosystem. And I think that really speaks to the digital transformation and breaking down that walled garden to create new monetization and revenue opportunities.
Right. Providing greater capabilities that provide revenue through your normal channels, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So your ecosystem, you talk about your ecosystem, that's really a strong part of what we see companies like yourself doing, growing business capability. So for you, it sounds like a big component of certain of the partners, which would be the airlines, right?
Yep, absolutely. I think that our ecosystem is Gogo as a connectivity provider, coupled with amazing brands like Delta Airlines or American Airlines or Virgin America or Japan Airlines, plus all of our other great partners. And then it starts to get into what's the next level of the rings, which get into our distribution partners. So that might be a Concur, which is a travel management company. How do they leverage our APIs to provide onward distribution of things that benefit us and ultimately benefit our airline partners? Right. And then you get into the next circle, which is individual development opportunities. A great strategic partner of ours is it's a company called Glimpse, which is a geolocation service. And on first pass, the intersection between Glimpse and Gogos, I'm not really sure the overlap. But as we develop the partnership, Glimpse's business is entirely about being able to tell people that are important to me where I'm at. And one of the missing pieces in their value statement was, well, when I get on an airplane from Seattle to Chicago, I'm kind of missing. Yeah. So through our connectivity technologies and our APIs, we've been able to enable Glimpse to work everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that's a key value to their business, and it also further extends our brand and our awareness to our customers and gives a nice introduction and opportunity to our airline partners as well. Mm-hmm. So it's that multidimensional ecosystem that's been created.
Right. And have you seen that with the growth of the ecosystem that it really provides that leverage model for more and more business?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, what we're seeing now is through even simple things like the awareness that we're creating in the market about our API program. The opportunities that are coming to us aren't just 2, 3, 5-person companies. These are multi-billion-dollar organizations looking for opportunities to work with Gogo in ways that we never imagined, and they probably are just starting to imagine. Right. And as we mature that product suite and that product line, the money will be really interesting to think about. The value to their customers and our customers, and ultimately to our airline partners, continues to grow.
And one of the things I really like about it is, and you've done this so well, is to create that sustainable advantage, right? Because when companies look to transform in this digital world, it's not just about taking, the Me Too approach to creating something, but you've really built, I think, a pretty unique model in terms of the partners that you serve to create that long-term differentiation.
Yeah, I think a quote that really stuck with me was some of our team had a very positive discussion with one of our key airline partners, and the chief marketing officer of that airline stated that unlike any of our other vendors, the investment in these emerging technologies that Gogo is making is frankly remarkable and is putting you at the leading edge of what we're thinking about. Mm-hmm. Usually we have to push our partners. You're pushing us. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a really nice testimonial to what this relationship and this technology allows us to do to our key partners. Right. And it's always nice to have a testimonial from a CMO of a large company say, you guys are doing something well. So that I think that's it's motivating to the team, and it's another proof point and reference example of this type of business model continuing to grow.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So we talked a little bit about competition, certainly, or competing, and certainly how APIs play into that. Mm-hmm. How do you see this long term with what Gogo needs to adjust?
Yeah, I think that's something that we spend a lot of time discussing and debating as a company. And back to my discussion about the walled garden is, I think as a company we're embracing that the ecosystem will continue to become more and more open, and that can be anything from an app on an iPhone or an Android device to the interaction between the Gogo internet connectivity and the TV that's embedded in the seat back on an airplane. Mm-hmm. So how do we create enabling opportunities for us to further our connectivity advantage in ways that may or may not have been thought about previously? Mm-hmm. And I think to really answer the question about how do we compete differently, I think we compete differently by enablement. Mm-hmm. I would say that's probably the one term that is used most often is how do we facilitate the enablement of things that further leverage Gogo's core product, which is enabling the connected aircraft. Right. And that's it's a lot to think about, but it's a nice challenge to have.
And also, that certainly sounds like APIs are critical to that.
Absolutely, and that's and I think not just APIs as interfaces, but APIs as a line of business.
Right.
And with that, it's It's a cultural evolution. It's an organizational evolution. It's a technical evolution. It's a sales evolution in many cases.
Right.
We've had, been really excited about the way our sales organization has embraced this line of business and this technology as a core part of our value statement.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's that, would you think that that's part of a sales pitch? A year ago, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's a core part of our value proposition.
Right. Yeah, and it also opens the door to many other services you can provide going forward. To go back a second to, you were talking earlier about how this is a product and treating it like a product. Mm-hmm. When I think about, what you're doing here, sure, if it had a UI on front of it and it was an app,
Yep.
people would have no problem understanding this is a product.
Yep.
But what you have is essentially the connectivity to all these different systems that are important to enabling so many services. Yet somehow it's a little more difficult to think of that as a product, but it is nonetheless.
It is, and we talk a lot about does a product have to have a user interface? And the answer is absolutely not. And it's
right.
and that's I think if you look at some traditional business organizations,
Sure.
It's the business folks think about the widgets and the drop shadows and the rounded corners, and what happens underneath is not the business's problem.
Right.
Whereas, as this ecosystem and this market continues to evolve, the underlying technologies are the product, because as you create more headless interactions, it's not about the drop shadows, it's about the robustness and capabilities within that interface, because my intersection with a customer may be a web page that I create, an app that I develop, or frankly, I may reach customers through someone else's point of distribution, and I need to be able to enable that robust experience and interaction. I don't care if it's green or blue, but I do care that it works, and that's where this as a product is really emerging.
Right. Well, I think it's one of those things that we'll see more acceptance of, right, in terms of products that way. Well, especially given that really your market is B2B primarily, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's sort of take the lens off here and look back on what's occurred. What would you do differently?
That's a very great question to ask.
Well, also, we should introduce this napkin over here.
Yes,
right?
so just a bit of lore about the napkin. So the idea for Gogo was actually hatched at a barbecue restaurant in Texas about 25 years ago. And that's a representation drawn by one of our founders of how you connect aircraft to the internet. And you'll notice in the bottom left the very traditional handheld cellular phone about the size of a brick.
I thought that was a little barbecue sauce in the corner there.
It might be. Okay. So that's the genesis of Gogo. And really, really neat story to talk about. But if we were to change anything around our, let's say the last 6 to 9 months of this initiative, I think that the gaining further organizational alignment around this as a line of business would be one.
Right.
So that speaks to the cultural and the organizational evolution that has to occur.
Right.
I think that this introduces some new developmental paradigms as well. So we have, a fairly closed infrastructure that was designed for internal consumption. So there is still a substantial amount of investment required to allow those systems to work and be designed for external use and consumption. And probably the third piece is continuing to evangelize this both internally and externally. It's as I mentioned, a bit of a skunkworks effort to start, and some good wins along the way. Really championing that, and the level of engagement and involvement, especially from our senior team, continues to grow. And I think this fits in line with our continuing evolution to be an outstanding vendor and technology provider in the aviation industry. And I think it's people, it's culture, it's mindset, and it's evangelization. Just more and more of that.
Right. Never enough.
This isn't. I look at this as kind of the antithesis of Field of Dreams. This is not a build it and they will come kind of initiative. This is hard, and this requires selling up, down, sideways, internally and externally, and a lot of education. And as we start to introduce new business models, and going back to the example of how do you monetize your API? Historical thinking says unless a transaction is consumed, there's no monetization occurring. Versus what we see now is can I enable a business model by which it's X cents or X dollars per 1,000 or million requests? And that may work for a third-party developer, whereas an intersection with a key transactional partner might be on a revenue share basis. So it's introducing those new business models and paradigms to organizations that have probably thought historically that I make money in one or two ways. Now I might start to make money in 4 new ways that are additive over time or incrementally additive.
Mm-hmm. Well, you brought up some very interesting points there about alignment between business and IT and really culturally across the whole organization. We see, I think, the most successful companies understanding that challenge and doing it well. And it's always different in every company what needs, what parts of the organization need to be educated and brought on board and really understand the opportunity that's part of this.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so great work. So this is actually, I love this part, right? Because it's, you just a year ago were new to this, right? So you basically got into this and then learned probably faster than you even thought you were going to learn about what to do and how to address the challenges ahead of you. So for somebody that's basically just starting down this journey, even thinking about, do I need to get into this, what would you advise?
Wow, that's a good question to ask. And I think as I look back on our API evolution, probably 3.5 years ago, we started on it. And that was building it internally, doing it ourselves, and we built some really amazing technologies. And it was, the interfaces are robust, they're solid, they're testable, they're documented, and that was good. And then it became, okay, I have 1, but I think there's a market opportunity that I can justify for 10. And those 10 may be the additive value of 1 through 10. Maybe they're all small incremental benefits, but how do I really put forth that business case to our senior team and our board about this investment? And really, at the end of the day, this is not a large investment for us to make. It's a highly scalable investment. I think to the point here is it's not just about technology. This is about identifying the market opportunity, the technical opportunity, and really capitalizing on how do I get there fast. Because I think as we look at our business, speed to market, much like everyone on this webinar today and looking out the window at these other companies, speed to market continues to decline. And the do it myself model it's outstanding, but how do I start to short cycle those?
Right.
And like I mentioned, we're really good at doing certain things. Aren't we really good at doing reporting around server requests or throughputs or reporting? We could be, but what we're really good at is connecting aircraft to the internet. And
that's core.
Yes, and so it's really identifying. And this is a hard challenge for any company. It's the build versus buy decision. And I think that was one of the critical pieces early on in our evolution was identification of key partners, and that's when we found Apigee through many of our peers and colleagues have used the technology and used the product and have been just overwhelmed with its robustness and its capabilities. And as we went through the vendor evolution, we identified that wow, this closes the gap on 8 or 9 things that frankly we're not going to be good at doing. We're going to capitalize on our core intellectual property and we're going to add to it through key partnerships. And I think that was one. The other one was the evolution of the business, and I really can't stress that enough. As a company, selling and reinforcing the value of entry into new markets with new paradigms. And going back to that term enablement, I would say it's not just about technology; it's about enablement. And if we can capitalize on partnerships and technologies to create enabling opportunities for our partners and our customers, I'm not going to argue with that ever. I think that's a great outcome to create.
It's an opportunity. Yeah, opportunities are great. One of the things I think that's so interesting too about your business model, and that I didn't know till previously, was that you're not only a service provider, but you're actually a hardware provider, right?
Yep. So
you're really leading the edge of this technology as well as the service deployment to bring value to airlines and customers. What do you see, that will lead to going forward?
I think that the way we look at our business is threefold. Is we've created an unbelievably remarkable telecommunications network in North America. We've become a leading satellite network provider around the world. We then couple that with what we call our airborne network. So we have hardware and software that is running on 8,000 planes across the commercial and business aviation division, and really focusing on the commercial division. 2,300 connected aircraft, all with our hardware, our technology, enabling communications. And what does that then enable? And that's where it starts to get really exciting, is our core value is that network and that hardware. And what can we do on top of that? So that's where we start to really evaluate some new technology and some new product opportunities.
That's great. I can imagine. I'll tell you, I'm still intrigued by your mention of the combination of services like LinkedIn and the rest of this stuff, because it really can change the experience for the traveler, to say the least, as well as the airline for that matter, and the folks that are operating it.
Yeah, and I think just one thing to add on there is as our business continues to evolve and APIs and interfaces become more and more a core part of our value proposition, we look at it that fundamentally our business has been built on passenger interactions, and we have started investing very heavily in kind of the operational aspects of the business, be it the cabin crew, be it the cockpit, be it the aircraft itself, and how does connectivity and communications technologies married to robust APIs and interfaces create outstanding value and frankly high switching costs to our partners. That enablement of the connected aircraft is, we fundamentally believe that is one of the things that's going to help us be very successful as a company.
Right. And just in transportation in general, we've seen this sort of focus on the connected car, the connected, whatever it is. Yet so there's similarities, but there's certainly something very different about your model. You've got people that are on the plane for hours usually, and they're not driving, so they have a little bit more disposable time, if you will. And it's an interesting model for the services that it provides basically the canvas for the services that you can deliver value.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the analogies that is interesting to explore is in my car, Pandora works seamlessly through my dashboard, and that's interesting. I don't have to think about it.
Right.
And we've done similar things. A case study would be a partnership we have with the Weather Channel. So Weather Channel has 100 million plus installs of its weather app, and you get on a Gogo connected aircraft and it just works. So and what's one of the key pieces of information you need when you're traveling or want when you're traveling? The weather.
Right.
So value to the customer, reinforcing value to a partner like the Weather Channel, additive benefit to an airline by increasing its passenger satisfaction, and all of that is enabled through the ecosystem of connectivity plus interfaces.
Awesome. I just wish you could increase the seat pitch between those seats, but I know that's not your world. So we've talked a little bit, certainly here, I think, about the overall project, the challenges, ahead of you, not ahead of you, but that you addressed. But what about basically the future? I can certainly see that with the services that you're building and the opportunity before you, there's a lot of opportunity. What do you see as the connected planes future, right, in the distance?
That's a really great question. I think the connected aircraft of the future will be predicated on a few things. One is bandwidth. Every one of us has home internet access, and we are massive consumers of information. Be it Netflix or Hulu, your Nest thermostat. The concept of the Internet of Things is going to extend to the sky.
Sure.
And I think one of the things that was a very interesting case study for us was we recently participated in a hackathon with American Airlines and some wearable technologies. And you'd think at first pass, what does a Fitbit plus an airplane plus a connection have to do with anything? And
that's a good question.
So some of the really interesting concepts and ideas that come out of this is track my bag or track my pet.
Right.
And that is leveraging Gogo's connectivity, the Fitbit as a wearable connected device, maybe some RFID technologies. And these are things, again, nobody would have thought of unless you start to put these multiple points of insight together. So number one is increasing bandwidth and consumption. Any network model always predicts that bandwidth capacity would be outstripped by consumer demand. So that's why we continue to invest so aggressively in new technologies to bring greater capacity to an aircraft. The second one is, that value proposition of Gogo enabling the connected aircraft is something that we focus extremely tight on, and it's a benefit to a passenger, it's a benefit to the cabin crew by providing greater safety, greater service, increased monetization opportunities by enabling flight attendants to upsell, provide real-time seat upgrades, to sell duty-free, just ways to make more money off each passenger. It also gets into increased efficiency from the flight deck. So how do you give pilots more real-time information through connectivity to make their flight management more efficient and ultimately more economically beneficial to the aircraft? At a very simple case, avoid a diversion. And then ultimately to the operation of the aircraft itself. And going back to the car analogy is, if your car has some kind of fault, you take it to the dealer, they plug it in, get some diagnostic codes. Similar analogy can occur in the aviation industry, but how do we enable technologies that allow key faults to be distributed in real time so that aircraft can be fixed quicker? Those are the kind of things we're really looking at, and enabling the enablement of that connected aircraft makes airlines more efficient. It makes incremental revenue generating opportunities to our partners, and hopefully outside of seat pitch makes passengers happier. So
nicely done. Yeah. So I would think that on the airline side of things, right? Most people look at Gogo, think of the consumer-facing aspect of it, but I would think that sort of back end, if you will, and the services that you could provide there are truly, revolutionary, right? Because they just haven't gotten there yet, right?
Absolutely. And going back to the auto industry model, what you've seen with automation in automobiles, I think that's a great case study for aviation as well.
Right.
Who would have thought 5 years ago that I can get in my car and Pandora just works,
right?
Or the Google Maps between my phone and my car works seamlessly. It's not a huge conceptual leap, but it actually works, and things like that for an aircraft as well.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of those, to the consumer side, lead to convenience, right? But certainly for the business side, lead to efficiency, productivity, lower costs,
more money,
reduced time, all more money, right, across the board. So, I think that's pretty exciting in terms of the B2B side of things. What your market is there. So I think we've got time for a few questions here. Let me see what we may have. What are the airlines doing to engage more customers to use Wi-Fi? So, my last few flights, they didn't say, wow, we have basically Wi-Fi available.
Sure. Yeah, this is something that we work very closely with our airline partners on, and many of them have very robust marketing initiatives about the promotion of Wi-Fi, ranging from, signage on the plane, inclusion in their apps, mentions at the gate, and, overall we've been extremely pleased with the level of marketing support, from, the flight attendant making the announcement, welcome to flight 701, this aircraft is equipped with Gogo Wi-Fi, to connect to it, go to the Gogo in-flight SSID, and so there's multi-dimensional levels of support that occur across the different airline partners.
No, I noticed it certainly on my itinerary, right? It'll indicate that it's a Gogo equipped flight. There's, as you mentioned in Concur, there's the ability to buy a pass before you even take off.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we're seeing, which is it's really remarkable for an industry that didn't exist 6 years ago, was the consumer expectation has been set so much here in the U.S. that I get on an aircraft and Wi-Fi is available. And when it's not, that's almost become the exception and not the rule. That's for folks like you and I and many of our colleagues on this discussion today. It's the thought of an hour and a half or 2 hours, or God forbid, a transcontinental flight from San Francisco to JFK and being off the grid for that long. It's just people get twitchy about that. And we've even seen through our own internal research as well as our partner research that consumers are making buying decisions based on the presence of Wi-Fi now. It used to be based on room between seats. Wi-Fi has now become one of the key differentiators in travel. And that's, for a company like Gogo, we're thrilled to see that happen. Yeah,
that's so true. I certainly know that I depend on it a bit, and it enables just getting some things done that, especially in a very focused and concentrated way, because you're sitting in that seat for a while.
Yep.
Well, that's great. That's great. Let's see, another question here about, let's see, the API's conference. Well, very good. Asking if you'll be there.
Gogo will have a presence at the API conference once again this year, so we are very excited to be part of that. And, continuing to have the opportunity to meet folks from complementary organizations and hear their journey, share our journey, and really leverage the expertise that a partner like Apigee brings to us. It's unbelievably beneficial.
Right. That's one of the things about the show. There was just, everyone there is basically someone who can see the benefits of this technology, the believers, so to speak. And what was so incredible was the interchange. Just about anybody you talk to was a great exchange of information, no matter what the industry was, but that had a relevant sort of piece of information to help, fit in the puzzle.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, no, it'd be great to have folks that are listening to this come and also have the conversation with you there. With that, I think we're about out of time. We thank you basically for attending today. I want to remind you, as we were just speaking of the conference, basically, that you have an opportunity for 10% off. Use this code. You can go directly to the site that you see there, www.iloveapis2014.com. Sign up, join us, come meet Brad, and come and see basically a great show and a number of great tracks and sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.